I don't think, though, it's a coincidence that a year before he becomes the governor of California, the Watts riots happen, 1965, which for a lot of white folks in America was terrifying.
Yeah.
That act of rebellion on the part of predominantly young black people who were fed up with the kind of oppressive conditions in which they were living, police brutality in California at the time. Can you maybe talk a little bit about just that civil rights moment? Because Reagan himself had been opposed to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and he also opposed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He made the argument that it was about preserving states' rights, but that suggested that perhaps he was using race in some way to advance his own political interests. Is that harsh? Too harsh?
No, I don't think so. I think it's played out in the way he coded race when he was president as well. I think that became part of it, and why he was actually, endorsed. He rejected the endorsement of the Klan at some point in I think it was before his 1980 presidential run.
And he did launch his campaign in Philadelphia, Mississippi, which was where the Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney, the three civil rights workers, had been found murdered.
Yeah. So there's no denying that he was aware of these symbols. He was not going to be openly so, but he was coding it in ways that were easily read by his audience. I mean, absolutely, Watts was enormously significant, and not the only one. There were dozens of urban riots across the United States, closer to home, Detroit,
Newark,
all across the country. And it became a symbol of the failure of democratic policies as well to do something about
and a sign of
things.
a decline of the country.
Yeah.
Right?
So all of the optimism of the 1950s that we were so prosperous suddenly in the 1960s, and 65 was also, of course, the year when Johnston escalated the American involvement in Vietnam. The most troops started going over. This is when he publicly admitted they were involved. At that time, these were not anti-war protests. That was not in people's line of sight until maybe 68. So that was before that. But the thing about these urban riots is Americans, for the most part, were not always aware of their own cities because they were so segregated. And until it's on the news, until you actually see those images of cops dealing with rioters in Los Angeles or in Newark or in Detroit, it doesn't bring home to you just how bad the country actually is, what's going on. If you're white, middle class, or working class, you're not living in the same neighborhoods. You're not having the same experiences, and so you don't understand it. You understand the violence and the disruption, and I think much of what happened in the 1970s was middle American voters saying, we don't know how we feel about Vietnam, whether we're for it or against it, but we know it's causing stress at home. It's causing riots. We don't like the way young people are behaving. We don't like the way people in inner cities are behaving. We don't like the idea of busing. We don't like the idea of affirmative action. But we also don't want to be called racist. So we're going to try to figure out a way to elect a leader who will stop those things, bring peace to our cities, bring prosperity and job security, restore an America that they sort of vaguely remember from television and movies.